Dave Daniels with Braincraft talking about product launch. David, take it away.
All right, thanks, Chris. Yeah, hi everybody. I'm excited to be here at yet another product camp, and my area of interest and passion and expertise has been product launch for a very long time. Some of you might know me from a class that you've taken from me when I was an instructor at Pragmatic Marketing, or now Pragmatic Institute, and you may not know that I was also the developer of the launch class if you took it. So if you have any questions about that at any time, you can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to help. So anyway, today I'm going to talk to you about the 10 ways to ensure a successful product launch. And I'm not going to be talking about the stuff you already know. I like to think about things in presentations with a little bit of an unconventional angle, so that I'm not just rehashing something else that somebody said, but I'm having you think about stuff that maybe you're not thinking about. Now, before we get started, you'll notice on this slide there is a QR code in the upper right-hand corner of my title slide. And what I would like for you to do is to take out your phones and turn on your camera and click on that, and it will take you to a landing page in a tool called Mentimeter. And Mentimeter is a polling tool. It's a presentation tool too, but it's a polling tool mostly. And what I'd like for you to do is start pumping words in there. Whoa, we got a bunch of words already. Holy cow. Yeah, go ahead and start putting words in there. And, you know, if you just click all you want, I'll come back to it in a little bit. But before we get there, what I'd like to do, and I'll show you all these, and at the end of the presentation, I'll get JPEGs for these, and I'll post them out on Slack, and I'll probably tweet them and that kind of thing too. So I'll put them out there. Look at that. Actually, you know what, Chris, I am gonna change my share to that so everybody can see it. There we go. There you go. Look at that thing popping in right now. Look at that. Awareness, time bound. Someone put stressful. Thank you for putting that in there. Actually, several people put in stressful because it's larger. Time bound, go live, budget, roadmap, marketing, coming out, exhilarating. Yes. Right. So there's a lot of things that the reason why I use this poll question, and I've used it for a number of years, is it gets me thinking about the different ways that people perceive what a product launch really is. And the amazing thing is there's no single definition. And so part of solving the problem of having a successful product launch is clearly defining.
How to improve our craft, improve our skills. So I want to start out with a lot of.
Oh, there we go. Now we're clear again. So thank you for that. And so, you know, there's a lot of different definitions of or perceptions of what a product launch is, or what it isn't, or what it should do, or what it shouldn't do. And so this is just one example of that. Now, another thing I'd like to do is, let me click this here. Let me go to the next question. So let me set this up for you. So who in your organization is responsible for product launch success? Now, notice I qualified product launch with product launch success. So I gave you some answers here. Product manager, product marketing manager, someone else, I don't know, no one. And you'd be surprised about how many people do that. So someone else other than you, product marketing, okay? Let's keep them coming. I want to get a lot more than 6 of them. There we go. PMs. All right. I'm glad to see that there's not a I don't know. That would be a little shocking. Somebody has to do it. All right. So most of them are PMs. All right. Okay. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds and I'm going to go to the final poll question. Now we got 47 participants on the call, minus Chris and myself. That's 45. We should be seeing a lot more numbers than that. There we go. I have to poke you a little bit.
David, do you have a link I could throw in the chat? And if folks missed the QR.
Right up there at the top of the screen. You see it says menti.com. Use code.
I'll post that in the chat as well.
Yeah, it's right up there at the top. No one, thank you. Someone is honest and admits that no one does it. It just magically disappears, gets out of the door, escapes, sprouts legs, runs out the building. There we go. All right. So I got one more, and this one's important too. You ready? Go on to the next one. Do you actually define the objectives of a product launch? Or do you actually say this thing that we're doing to launch this product is going to meet this set of key results? Not sure. Got an even split on the yeses and the nos. And a yes isn't we're going to have a successful product launch, because there's no definition behind success when you just say successful. Right? All right. I'm going to stop boring you with all these poll questions now. Let's get into the meat of everything. Look at that. Nice even split. Got a few not sures. 9-9. Beautiful. All right. I'm going to leave that one up. People can keep adding to it. I'm just going to go over here to Keynote, and we're going to talk about our sponsors. I want to thank all the sponsors for being here. It is a lot of hard work to put these events off. I've seen it from the inside. There's a lot of sausage making, and everybody's a volunteer. Everyone's got a day gig. So it really matters that these sponsors step up. So sit in on their sessions, listen to what they're all about, because it's good stuff. Now, here's my definition of product launch, and it's going to frame everything I'm going to talk about in this presentation. A product launch is a coordinated effort to bring a product to market that accelerates business objectives. And there's a lot of word salad going on there, but there are two phrases in there I want you to be thinking about. One is it's a coordinated effort. This is, as you saw in the word cloud, this is a cross-functional activity. It takes a lot of people with a lot of insight. And I'm not talking about releasing a product. I'm not talking about, oh, here's an update, let's let it ooze out to our customer base. I'm talking about we're doing something new, or we're introducing the same product into a new market, or a new product into an old market. And I mean, something new for our company. So it takes a lot of people, but it's got to be grounded in we're trying to accomplish something. So just getting the product done, putting a pretty wrapper around it, updating the website, and tossing a presentation, sales prezo over to the sales team is not a launch. That's just a bunch of deliverables. So let's walk through 10 things you need to be thinking about in order to have a successful product launch. 1, you got to know what you're going to be up against with this launch. You got to know what the launch risk profile is. Now, some of you might be going, well, what do you mean by that? A risk profile. Well, what I mean by that, and I've got a simple tool for you, and you can download it off the braincraft.com website if you'd like. But it compares whether you're going to be in a familiar market or an unfamiliar market, or whether this is a bolt-on or whether this is something brand new, right? It gives you a sense of, is this a lower risk profile or is this a higher risk profile? And so you can see from this slide here that if you're launching a new product into an unfamiliar market, it's definitely going to be a lot higher risk than if you're launching an existing product into a familiar market. So, which is much lower risk. Now, keep in mind that just because it's a lower risk doesn't mean you can't fail, right? It still requires coordination and communication, but also don't get discouraged, because a higher risk launch profile can still succeed. It's not impossible to be successful at it. We do this stuff all the time. All right. The other question I have for you is, who's driving the bus? So I'd like to use the term launch director. So launch director is that person that is the person who has the individual accountability for making sure the product launch is successful. All right. It's a really hard job. It often rotates around the organization. It's the person who can say no when everybody else on the launch team is saying yes. And I want to compare that to a story of, when NASA launches, a launch director would sometimes, even given all the data from all the different teams that says we're ready to go, would walk outside and look at the weather and just sense that something was wrong and would come back in the building and say, we got to delay the launch, something's not right. And they just had this sense of knowing that it wasn't ready and people could be in danger. And this is the person that we count on to be the leader of the launch team. Now, accountability to me is a very important word. It doesn't mean they're just herding cats into the kitchen. It means that there are some objectives that have been clearly set, and they're the ones we hold accountable to make sure that those objectives are set. Now, surprising as it may seem, a product launch is actually very much a team sport. It's very cross-functional. It requires a lot of insight. You can't possibly in a large organization have all the knowledge of how things work in your organization. And when I say mobilizing a team, I mean you get together and you actually interact with each other. I don't care if you do it face-to-face or you do it on Zoom or whatever tools you use. But I'm reminded of a story that somebody shared with me in a class once where they said, oh, we have a launch team. And I was having lunch and well, how often do you guys meet? Well, we don't actually meet. I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? Why don't you meet? She goes, well, what I do is I just reach out to them when I need something. And so while she thought she was being more efficient at contacting somebody, getting some information, what was missed by all of this is the coordination and the communication. So what is a launch team? It's a cross-functional group of people organized for the sole purpose of delivering a successful product launch. That's it, right? Cross-functional, we meet, we talk, we go, wait a minute, we can't do that. I had a scenario once where we were meeting, we met weekly, we were meeting, and someone from finance said, the thing that you were planning to do, we can't do. And there was some legality around it, and I was unfamiliar with the legalities, and we had to get the legal team in, and eventually we had to pivot on this one thing. But if I had gone to finance and gone to legal independently, I may not have discovered that that was a big issue, and I could have gotten a lot of people in trouble, including myself. The other thing about a team, as the saying goes, if everyone is thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking. So you need different viewpoints. 4, you got to define and socialize your launch objectives. Now, Bruce earlier gave a presentation on OKRs. I thought he did a fantastic job. I am a huge fan of OKRs in launch. It's a perfect fit because OKRs are naturally suited to measuring and monitoring the performance of a team or an initiative with a cross-functional element. So launch is perfect here. And the beauty of OKRs, for those of you who use them, please chime in on the chat. For those of you who use them, you understand that once you come up with an objective, then you start thinking about, well, how do I measure that objective, right? As measured by key result, key result, key result. So perfect, right? So we can do that, and then we can start thinking about, well, wait a minute, if we're going to try to achieve that key result, well, that impacts finance, it impacts sales, it impacts customer success. Now, all of a sudden, those things begin to cascade into the different functional areas. So I love OKRs for setting launch objectives. Now, here's something that's a little unconventional, and I want you to change your thinking around this. We often think about what does our product do, And then we think about who else does what we do. So who are our competitors? And then we start thinking about segments in a very broad and generalized way, like banking and, financial services and, broad brushstrokes of definitions, which are really more industries than they are segments. And then finally, at the end of this pile, as we go, oh, okay, well, who are the people we should go after? I want you to flip that upside down. Start with who are your ideal customers? You built it for somebody. You built this product to solve a problem for somebody. Who is that somebody? Get in a room with your team. Articulate who the ideal customer profile is. Then use that to guide you to the definition of where do these people hang out. Well, let me show you it this way. So start with an ideal customer profile. And by the way, if you saw the session on empathy mapping, big fan of empathy mapping, because it gets us to understand how to get inside the heads of these ideal customers. So define your ideal customer. It could be a unicorn. I'm okay with that. Then start thinking about where do those people hang out? Where can I find groups of them? That's simply the definition of a market segment. Right? There's demographic attributes, there's psychographic attributes, there's lots of things we can use here. But then once you've got your market segments defined, then and only then should you look at what the competitive landscape is. So here's where I'm going. I'm a recovering product manager too. So as a product manager, I used to think about my product and its features and what it did and who else can do what I do. And then I had a boss of mine one day say, well, who are we going after? And do those people, these companies that do what we do they also go after the same customers? And I didn't have an answer for him, so I had to go figure it out. And then it dawned on me that our ideal customers lead us to segments lead us to the competitive landscape, and competitive landscape gets us to the next thing, which is where is our winning zone? So if we're introducing a new product into a marketplace, we're going to have competitors. We're going to have to carve out where we think we can win, or otherwise it's just going to be a big slugfest. So what do I mean by winning zone? Okay, I'm going to do the interlocking circles of success. Okay, here we go. Circle number one. What is it that customers want? What do they expect? What is their buying criteria? What check marks do you have to check off in order to get a yes from them? Then there's some intersection between what you do and what they want. Now, when you look at what you do, I want you to elevate beyond what the product does, because customers buy certainly because the solution can do something, but they also have other things that they care about. They might care about how you conduct business. They might be interested in your pricing structure and how it works. They might be enamored with your corporate culture. They might love that you have an innovation, and that there's other things that they look at to make a buying decision other than the features in the product. And you know that if you've been in the business long enough, you can have a product that has superior features over your competitor, but yet you don't win the business. And then last but not least is what does your competitor do in the same context that I just described? So in that intersection between what customers want and what you do is called the winning zone. Why? Because your potential customers believe you can do something your competitors can't. So positioning starts with position, and that's the space you need to occupy in the minds of customers you want. 7, leverage your advantages. Okay, what's an advantage? An advantage is any state, circumstance, opportunity, or means that is favorable to success. And that is according to dictionary.com. So it's on the internet and therefore it must be true. But here's what I want to tell you about an advantage. Something is only an advantage when the customers you want believe it's an advantage. It's not an advantage just because you say it over and over and over again on social media. It's only if they believe it. Now, the opposite side of an advantage is an obstacle. So the other thing you have to do is remove your obstacles. Now, I'm gonna blow your mind a little bit on obstacles. We know what they are. There's something that gets in the way, right? They hinder our progress. But here's something I want you to be thinking about. Obstacles can occur externally and they can occur internally. And some of you, without realizing it, are creating obstacles and you don't even realize it. Think about all the people in your organization, the different functional areas that need to be ready, they need to be prepared on launch day. They can promote it, they can sell it, they can deliver it, they can receive money from customers, right? We're not in any violation of some regulatory requirement. But sometimes you create friction in the organization either by taking shortcuts or maybe making promises that you can't deliver on. And you know, it can really kill an entire product launch if you're not careful. All right, which leads me to number 9. You need to close launch readiness gaps. It seems like an obvious statement, but too often in launch planning, when we get to that point of how do I make sure that sales can sell and marketing can market and support can support and delivery can deliver, is we look at it as one big thing and a checklist of things. We got to give sales this and this and this and this. By the way, just because you give your sales team a sales presentation and a new demo and some beautiful new collateral doesn't mean they can sell. It just means they got some deliverables that they probably won't use. Sorry for my friends in sales who are on the call. So you have to look at your readiness gaps on where are we today and what would be the ideal state for readiness. Like they could slam dunk do it in their sleep. Now, the reality is you're going to get somewhere in the middle of those two states. Because, and also sometimes the gaps are actually very small. You may be introducing a product and your sales team goes, yeah, we're good. We understand those kind of companies. We've sold to those kind of buyers. We pretty much get how they are. We have a few questions though, and you can close that gap fairly easily. Sometimes you're going into a brand new market. And if you're not careful, a little bit of hubris will get in the way and go, we're a big company. We've been successful for generations and it's just a new market. How hard could it be? And then you discover that your gaps are much, much bigger. All right. So the key here is 1, you have to understand what those gaps are. And then 2, put a plan in place to close those gaps. And as part of that plan, you should have 3, some form of measurement so you can verify that that gap has indeed been closed. All right, last but not least, measure launch performance. All right, so here's why. You got to be proactive in a launch. It's a big deal. You got a lot at stake, lots of money, lots of resources. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're tracking towards your launch objectives. But you don't wait until 6 months down the road when all of a sudden everything blows up and now we're having meetings and sales is saying nobody wants this and marketing is saying you're not selling the value and development is telling marketing you don't know who our customers are. And we get into all that blame storming stuff, which is not productive at all. So put measurement in place. Tie them to the launch objectives. Look for those health metrics, as Bruce mentioned. You might have a new set of health metrics that show that you're heading in the right direction. So step 1 is to measure. So you got to make sure you define good metrics and you can collect the data. Step 2 is analyze that periodically, looking for trends. Are we tracking in the right direction or are we off course? And then the third part is make adjustments when necessary. Sometimes it might be just plowing along just like you expected. All right. Now I've got a bonus 11 for you because, 11's a nice prime number. I like to end on a prime number. The thing that people miss in launching products, it's such a hard thing to do, and everybody's just so exhausted at the end of it. But you need to stop, step back, take a deep breath, and see what you've learned. Building tribal knowledge is a good thing. And I recommend using a learning process with the good, bad, better, best model. So here's what it looks like. Get the launch team together, get a whiteboard. Digital's fine. This is a mural example, actually Miro on this one. And what I want you to do is I want you to think about, what did we do well? Let's just pop it up there on Post-it notes. In this example, I said, hey, we achieved our high-level OKRs. We were realistic about our obstacles. We got really good support from our stakeholders. What didn't work as planned? What was bad? Well, our competitor analysis was incomplete. We had to launch before we were ready. That happens sometimes. What could we improve? Where can we get better? Well, of course, if that was bad, then maybe we should do a better job of our competitor analysis and improve communication with our stakeholders. But where did we rock? It's really important, in my humble opinion, to take the time to recognize the people who went above and beyond, even if it's, cupcakes or a beer and some pizza or a plaque, however you want to do it. And that is, who are our rock stars? In this case, sales ops was outstanding and Jason and Emily exceeded everyone's expectations. Recognize the hard work, because here's the thing about the members of your launch team. They were not hired to be members of a launch team. They were hired to do a job. And they work in finance, and they work in development, and they work in customer success. And that's their day job. What they did to help you out with your launch is almost like a volunteer effort. And it's often thankless. So let's take the time to thank them. All right. So a couple of things here. If you want to learn more about me, there you go. The only thing I want to say here is I got a poster for you if you'd like it. It covers my product launch framework, and it's got a little narrative there. And if you go to the website, you can find it and download it. You don't have to fill out a form or anything. But I do want to announce that we're going to have our next public cohort of the Product Launch Masterclass live, and it starts on July 27th. And that QR code, if you want to follow it, will take you to the landing page so you can see more about it. If you have any questions, of course, just reach out to me. And anyway, with that, Chris, I'm ready to open it up for questions if we have any time left.
Awesome. Great job, Dave. Wonderful presentation. Yeah, we do. We've got about 5 minutes. Let's see, this session goes until 1:10. So we've got 5 minutes, and I just
Perfect.
posted in the chat. There's obviously, we can go on to Slack to do some conversations after. There's also the Wonder Me if you guys have signed up for that, but we've got 5 minutes here. So if anyone has questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask live or post it in the chat. One question that's coming up, Dave, is a copy of the presentation. I'm seeing that in the chat.
Oh, a copy of the, I can rip a copy of the PDF and post that out on Slack. Would that be okay with everyone?
I would think. And then also, just as a note to all the participants, all of these are being recorded, and barring any unforeseen technical issues, they should be available, the full presentations streaming post the event. So stay tuned for that as well.
Okay. And then afterwards, I'll make sure to post JPEGs of the poll questions so we can pop them out on Slack so you can have some fun with those.
Fantastic. Other questions from folks in the audience? Again, feel free to unmute yourself if you can, or use the chat. If not, I can also use the time to take a break. We are going rapid fire here today. We've got two more. I believe we've got two more before the exhibit hall. No, three more sessions. So,
Yeah.
if you need to take a break, obviously it's a good time to do that as well.
Hey, thanks everybody. I'm fully familiar with the vote with your feet rule, and you stuck in there for the whole duration. So very good. If you have any launch questions, just even in general, just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer them. So anyway, thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you over in WonderMe.
Wonderful. Thank you everyone for participating today. And David, thank you again. Fantastic.
You're very welcome.
Okay.